Hey guys, how is everybody doing with the month of January 2025 already behind us? We start off February, which we are in the first week of, and it is almost over because I wish it was Thursday, but it's only Wednesday. So yeah, the month that was January is now behind us. That is scary to think about. The first month of 2025 is already over. Now, this is a series that I did last year, so where at the end of every month, I rank all the new movies that I had watched during that entire month. I rank them all from worst to best. It was just the group of movies that I had happened to see that month. Now, I did not do it for January last year because I only saw two movies, and I did not do it for November, December because of personal reasons and just other stuff going on where I didn't have time to go to the theater and watch other movies. But one of my resolutions for this year, and one of the things I'm hoping to do this year, is hopefully I'll be able to have a ranking for every month out this year. And luckily enough, I saw enough movies for a list. Now, it is only three movies. Sure, but it's still enough for a list, and it's better than only two. And for me, usually when it comes to the month of January, it is usually a slow month for me, but that's just me. There are other uh, critics out there that are able to watch like five. Cody Leach watched like nine, I believe. And I'm like, Jesus, I don't know how you were able to do that. But I got a chance to watch three. Three to me is good. That's good enough for a list. And usually January is known as dump month for movies, to where basically all of the movies that suck, they just dump it in January, just and hopefully they get a profit. That's kind of the reputation January gets for movies. That's why we all kind of groan when it comes to January movies. So yeah, I watched enough for a list. I got three of them here, so let's rank them all from worst to best. Now, before I begin, when I say worst, I don't think there's really a bad movie on this list. If anything, my number three is just the weakest, and I have my issues with it, so I will get to it soon. So yeah, there's no bad movie on this list. There's only one that's just meh. The rest of them are pretty good. So with that, let's start. Coming in at number three, the weakest movie of January 2025, and one of the most disappointing movies of the year already, which boy, it's going to be a tough year, I feel. And unfortunately, number three for me is going to be Lee Winnell's Wolfman. Now, for those of you who don't know, Lee Winnell is kind of slowly becoming an up and coming horror director. He's made four horror movies now, and he was mostly known as a writer. He worked with James Wan on the Saw series and Insidious series. I also believe he helped make some of the Conjuring movies as well. But Lee Winnell has gained this reputation for a great horror director because he made movies like Insidious Chapter 3, which I consider being one of the better movies of that series, but yet again, I'm not a big Insidious fan. And he also made Upgrade, which was a huge surprise the year it came out. And if I had this channel, then that would have been in like my top three movies of that year. And he came out with the brilliant and amazing remake of The Invisible Man 5 years ago now. And when they announced that he was going to be working on a Wolfman movie, I was so excited because he did phenomenal with the Invisible Man remake, and I would have bet body parts and money that he would have done better with the Wolfman because I felt he was the perfect choice to do a werewolf movie. We have the vampire subgenre slowly coming back. The Twilight stuff is officially in the dust. We're getting vampire stuff. Now let's bring it home with werewolves. And unfortunately, this I ended up walking out of the theater disappointed because Lee Winnell, when it comes to his movies and when it comes to his writing, he always has social commentary. He has it in his movies. When you watch him, there's always some sort of social commentary. Insidious 3, it dealt with like rehab. It kind of dealt with the psychological stuff with that, and bestly known in The Invisible Man with like a past abuser and past abusive relationship, to where you still have that feeling they're still looming over you, which is a great message in the Wolfman, not Wolfman, in The Invisible Man, excuse me. But in the Wolfman, they try to do this social commentary on on like abusive parents in a way, and it kind of like strict parents. That is the opening of this movie, to where like the main character's out hunting with his dad, and his dad is kind of a hard ass on him. He's overprotective, it seems, and he seems to be hard on him, and it kind of hints that he kind of beats him at some points, but it seems like that's going to be a good message. But like after the opening and after like a few little twicks from from the main character, kind of trying to say that he still has that he might have some of his father anger in him and kind of has his father's temper in him a little bit, but they don't do anything with it. Like, after all of that, after the beginning, after the characters are going to the farmhouse after his dad passed away, they don't do anything with it. They don't continue it. They don't try to continue that message. There's moments where they kind of do it, but they don't. And that's unfortunate because I feel that's a good message. That could have been a pretty good message going through this movie to where to where I could have felt something at the end of the movie, but unfortunately I didn't. And speaking of the ending, well, not technically the ending, but one of the twists in this movie, the main twist of this movie, Lee Winnell is known for twists as well. Like, he worked with James Wan on Saw. He is known for twists, and is known for like a huge game changer in his movies. I knew right out of the get-go what they were going to do towards the end of this movie, and I got it right, and I wasn't surprised, and that kind of took away from my experience because the entire time, I'm not going to spoil it, I just knew what they were going to do, and I just saw it coming. And that again, took away from my experience. However, there are other things to like. Lee Winnell, he's a great when it comes to his camera work. It has these cool moments to where we see the perspective of the humans, of like the main characters, kind of talk to the main character who's slowly dying and slowly decaying and slowly becoming the Wolfman. And then every now and then it would switch to his perspective of how he's seeing things and how he's hearing things. There's cool moments, and this movie is very inspired by David Cronenberg's The Fly, which has the like obviously the body horror where he's slowly peeling apart, slowly becoming this creature. That's what this movie is with the Wolfman, and that could have been a great idea, and it is. It's interesting throughout the movie, but they just don't capitalize on it. Overall, the movie was a bit disappointing. Is it enjoyable? Sure, but out of all four of Lee Winnell's movies, I don't think this is the weakest. I think it's his second weakest, which hopefully by the next movie that he makes is just way better than this, and he really improves of what he was trying to do here. Coming in at number two, speaking of animals and people mixing together, Dogman. Now, I will admit, I did grow up with those Dogman books. I grew up with Captain Underpants. I was part of that to where growing up in grade school, I read the comic book. I read the Captain Underpants books, and I also read the Dogman books. So the only reason I went and watch this is just because I wanted that little bit of childhood a little bit childhood back because I'm slowly getting older and I don't like it. I want to be young again. I want to be 5 years old again. Life was so much simpler then. So yeah, the main reason I went and watched this movie is just because I grew up with those books. I grew up with this character. I grew up with that author, and so when they announced the Dogman movie, I couldn't help but get excited. I'm like, okay, the Captain Underpants movie was so much fun. It was super accurate to the books, and it was just a lot of fun for us Captain Underpants fans. I believe that they could do the same thing here with Dogman. And if you are a fan of Dogman, and if you possibly have a small kid that you want to have entertained in the theater for about 90 minutes to an hour to 2 hours, this movie's definitely going to work for you. Now, I'm not going to spend time here criticizing the movie because it does have its issues, but the main purpose of this movie is to entertain the kids. That is the main purpose of this movie. I was entertained. I had a fun nostalgic flashback with this movie. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, if you are a kid or if you grew up the Dogman books, I feel you're going to enjoy this movie. That is the main purpose of this movie, and that is all I will say about it. But coming in at my number one, my favorite movie of January 2025, not much competition though, and that is going to be Companion. Now, this is a movie that I didn't know a bunch about. I didn't know anything about this movie. I literally didn't even hear about this movie until 3 days before it came out. So that tells you how much I knew about this movie. So, what I was told, I stayed away from any advertisement. I stayed away from trailers. I didn't read a plot, a synopsis. I didn't even know who was in this movie, if I'm being completely honest. I literally went in blind, not knowing a single thing. But the only thing I knew is that these characters went out to a log cabin and that basically shit goes down, and the main killer of the movie is a evil robot like character that this evil girl robot like thing. That was all I was told. That is all I need to know. I'm like, that sounds like fun. But now we also live in this modern age in horror movies to where we get a lot of kind of AI killers or robots. We got M3 that came out 2 years ago now, and we had the Child's Play remake come out a few years before that, and we've had a handful of other ones come out the last few years. So we live in this new era of that, so I was really hoping this would be able to add something different or at least be fun. And it did both. I'm gonna try not to spoil this movie for you guys because this is a movie I want you to go into as blind as well. And this is a movie I don't really want to talk about too much because it's kind of hard not to spoil this movie because it's literally a surprise of what's gonna happen in this movie. Like I watched the trailer after I watched the movie. I'm like, oh, they didn't really reveal anything. That's cool. So yeah, but this movie it's just fun, and they add this cool spin on it to where pretty much the robot isn't the villain of this movie. Kind of the human characters are evil. That's all I will say. Again, I don't want to spoil it for you, but this movie, I had a lot of fun with it. It took a fun spin on killer robots, but the one thing I was kind of bothered about, and kind of one thing I was kind of hoping for more explanations on throughout this movie, was it doesn't tell you what year it is. They don't tell you if this is in the future, if this is in the present. It doesn't tell you what time period it is, which it sure you could argue that it is in present day, but it's kind of hard because well, you have this robot that is pretty much a fembot from Austin Powers, which is pretty much what it is. You get a fembot, and you also have the self-driving car using your voice saying when you tell it where you want to go and stuff like that. It's just like some of these things is like, what year is it? What time are we in here? Are we present? Are we in the future right now? Like, where are we? Like, I was a little confused, and I need more explanation on that. But yeah, overall, the movie was fun. I don't think the comedy was great. It had its moments. Jack Quaid, that guy is just fun to watch as always. I was really excited to see that he was in this movie. So yeah, go support this movie for sure because I want people to support original horror. That was one of the other reasons I went to watch it. So yeah, go watch this movie to support it for sure. Because for those of you saying that we don't get original horror movies anymore, it's because you don't support them. So go support Companion. You're gonna have a damn good time. Let me know what movies you watched during the month of January, guys, and we shall talk about it. What was your favorite movie of January? Do you agree with my list or do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, see you all next time.